Ladies and gentlemen, we now begin our next fireside chat, which is on the topic India Transformers for the World. In this session, we have two distinguished speakers who will share their perspectives on India's potential to become a global blueprint for various sectors. Our first panelist here, Sharad Sharma, founder, Spurt Foundation. Sharad Sharma is a renowned entrepreneur and technologist. As the founder of Spurt, India Software Product Industry Roundtable, he has been instrumental in shaping the Indian software product industry. Sharad will provide insights into how India can become a blueprint for innovation and entrepreneurship, particularly in the technology sector. And our second panelist for this fireside, Arun Seth. Arun Seth is a seasoned corporate leader and board member of esteemed organizations such as Narayana Health, Jubilant, and the Nudge Foundation and the Nudge Institute. With his extensive experience, Arun will shed light on the potential of India's healthcare, business, and social sectors to serve as a blueprint to the world. Together, they will engage in a meaningful conversation to explore how India's unique ecosystem, talent pool, and entrepreneurial spirit can pave the way for global excellence. May I invite both our panelists for the fireside chat to begin, titled India Transformers of the World. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for this session, which my good friend Sharad will be, talking. I'm going to be asking some questions, and I'm going to grill him.
All right.
And for all the things that we've done before. But this whole idea behind this whole session is that everybody here is familiar with UPI, with all these names which are there, Bheem, Digi Yatra, if you've used it, it's really useful. And he's one of the people who's been behind thinking about this. This has not happened by accident, I can tell you. It's been part of a long plan. It's taken a lot of time. And it's not that this has been done by the government. It's been a wonderful experiment in public-private partnership. And it's a model that we think can go around the world. So that's the whole idea behind this session. So Sharad, two questions in one. How did this start? And secondly, what are the various components? Because I know everybody is there, but since you're one of the architects of this, it will be nice for the audience to know what are the components out there.
In early 90s, lots of MNC R&D centers came up, particularly in Bangalore, some in Pune. And if you fast forward to 2005 or so, 15, 20 years later, there was a lot of angst amongst people that they were building for the world but not building for India. And then in 2007, I had returned back.
We had many fights on that.
Exactly. And I had returned back in 2004. In 2007, in a conversation with Ganesh Natarajan, he was very active like you in NASSCOM. This idea took root that we should at least start innovation awards. And so NASSCOM Innovation Award started. And that led to a realization that we had a very narrow view of innovation, and product innovation was not on our horizon at all. And understandably so, because we were learning how to build these large-scale services organizations, right? Not only in IT, but also in telecom, services, hospitals, and so on and so forth. And the focus of innovation was therefore in that area. So the first question was, why should we focus on product innovation? That was relatively obvious, and it's become even more obvious. Today, NVIDIA can be, a $1 trillion company, right? I mean, in fact, all the $1 trillion companies are product companies. And so today, a single product company can be as valuable as all of Indian economy, So there's little or no doubt that that is important. It was even obvious at that point in time. Second is, how does it happen? How is this innovation ecosystem different? And for many of us who had operated in that space, it was very clear that innovation in products is a jugalbandi between public goods, public research, public platforms. Collectively, you can call them public goods, and private innovation. So for example, if there was no GPS, there'll be no Uber. If there was no Stanford research, there'll be no Google. If there was no DARPA, there will be no Cisco. So the question was, we didn't have any of these places. The first institution of this kind that came up in India came up as BIRAC in only 2012, right? So this was a conversation that preceded BIRAC. And so the question was, how do we solve this, right? So what is the Indian problem? And the Indian answer to this was, while we can't get the institutions ready, Even in the Western world, before the institutions came up post-World War, this used to be citizen research and citizen technology development. Why can't we use that model, a volunteer model, to build the public goods that we needed for India? So the fourth question was, where should we focus? So we divided up India. India has 300 million people, and now that term is very common, India 1, India 2, India 3, 100 million families, 100 million families, 100 million families. And we said the market will take care of the first, most prosperous 100 million families, but it doesn't go into the second 100 million families. That has started changing with Geo, but it is still work in progress. And the third Indian 100 million families need a lot of help from the government. So we should focus on building our public goods, digital public goods for India 2 and India 3. So that was the angst, the genesis of this. Now, luckily, those digital public goods called India Stack have gone on to become very successful, but, and so therefore we can talk about it, but that involves a lot of luck, blood, sweat, and tears.
And
here, actually.
it straddles all political elements.
It straddles.
That's the beauty of this
yes,
one.
Yes.
So the quick question.
Success has many fathers. Right?
Yeah. But more important is that it's right, it's there. But is there something for the audience who are all from CIOs and business leaders here? What's the financial model and what's the value to everybody out here? It's nice to have it.
Yeah. So there are two things. See, look, open source tells us citizen science, citizen research hasn't gone away, right? And citizen technology hasn't gone away. India has become an epicenter for people building public technology. So that, I think, is happening in an entrepreneurial way. There is philanthropic capital that has become available. So, for example, Chris Gopalakrishnan has funded Institute of Brain Science, Mathematical Institute at a scale nobody has done before. There is government, funding available more so than before. But I think the power remains right now with citizen science and citizen research, because passion, dedication. I like to tell people that the most valuable company in the world, one of the most valuable, Apple, on their Mac still uses Unix kernel, right? And Google, another very valuable company, still uses Linux kernel built by volunteers, right? So if they can rely on volunteer-based stuff,
or even
right?
what's inside IBM is Red Hat.
Yeah, exactly. And so then what about anybody else? So we can't discount the citizen research aspect of this, where India has a story. But there's another part of this which is very important, is the idea of a Sutradhar. Because even if you have this technology, converting it into an ecosystem is a 10-year, 15-year journey. It is an effortful journey. It doesn't happen on its own. So the question is, who's going to do this? And that, I think, is the role that iSpirit ended up playing for India Stack, right? And Bayrak has played simultaneously. Dr. Renu Sarup particularly has played that for biopharma. And but that concept has taken bigger root. Now we have about, including iSpirit, we have 9 such Sutradhars here. We have Epic Foundation trying to do something in electronics. Ajay was here a little while back.
Quite involved in
we have NPCI doing that in payments, and so on and so forth. We have ONDC trying to do it in commerce. The characteristic of this is that they're non-profit and they're non-government. So in other words, these are all institutions that are not co-opted by the market, and they're not co-opted by the government. They have to be,
but seeded by the government.
They have to have partnership with both, because they have to knock those heads together. They have to bring policy changes with private innovation to solve a problem, a societal problem, in a way that was not possible before. The instigation for that is that public technology has become available. So public technology is a necessary starting point, but it is not sufficient for building. So you need core engines, but you need more than core engines to build these networks. So coming back to that, this is now the challenge. Now that we have 9 in place, one of them is not announced in AI, which will be announced later this year, but 8 are announced, the 9th will be announced later this year. They all have to make sure that in the next 10 years, they remain true to their purpose. They don't get co-opted. And that requires careful decisions about funding. And so all that has to be sorted out. The West has sorted this out many years back, right? So they have a NASA who can do this. They have a university who can do this. We are still learning this, but I'm very confident that that will happen as we go forward. So funding is largely donor funding, because if it's commercial funding, it's not going to work. In the case of ONDC, the banks are the donors. In case of iSpirit, many individuals, 100 individuals are donors. In the case of Sahamati, which is the account aggregator, Many of the players in the account aggregator system are the donors. So it is a funding model which is donor-based so that it has the independence to do Sutradhar role for the next 10 years.
So that's what we are doing. For example, I set up
Yes.
Nudge Foundation
Absolutely.
in the social sector.
Yeah.
It's all, we have gone at scale in
Sure.
8 months, but
Absolutely.
we are powered by technology.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
powering by technology is the key to solving the problem for the last 100 million people.
Absolutely. Fully in agreement.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me, you mentioned about, so we don't think we are going in the path like the West has gone, creating these trillion-dollar economies who kind of manage your data and so on and so forth. So what's the option for us to take this technology that we've developed? Is it something for India and only, and we are happy with that, or is it something that the world can use?
See, there are two learnings from India Stack. You can think of India Stack as the first bet that India made, which luckily has paid off, right? But what was that bet? Bet was that unseen stuff can have big consequences on the outside, right? In India, we were always willing to focus only on the seen stuff.
Roads.
For example, NVIDIA is unseen. Nobody knows what it is. Now it's very valuable, so everybody knows about it. So our business culture was to only focus on the seen, not on the unseen, right? Even in tech. We would not focus on the kernel, but we would focus on the app. App was seen, but there's no value in the app. The value is later down in the stack, right? So one is that it has given us confidence that we can build the unseen. Build the unseen in a way that the world can see the value of it and world wants it. So the second is that it has given us the Sutradhar model, which tells us how to do the ecosystem building. So a few years back, we sat down and we made 6 more bets, right? So one of the bets is, can we be a leader in orphan diseases? One of the bets which many of you are hearing is, can we be a 5G player? Can we make hens?
6G now.
And 6G, but can we do it for hens? Because Huawei has gone away, the suppliers, the 400 operators, there are only 4 suppliers, Huawei, Ericsson, Nokia, and Siemens.
Can we replace? I used to chair Alcatel, it doesn't exist.
Exists. And can we replace Huawei with somebody Indian? And I am here to tell you that answer is yes. Because, and where? One of the Sutradhar there is called voice. Not glorified, 16 companies only, but it has now won this $2.9 billion order and 100,000 base stations. Jio, when it came, was 60,000 base stations. So if it actually works later this year, because it's worked in a pilot in Chandigarh, but if it works in the field, we would actually make hens tens, with Tejas being the T in that area. So now this has been part of an orchestrated design. It is a template that was followed for India Stack, also applied here. AI is the same thing, so there's 6. My feeling is that out of the 6, at least 3 will succeed. And if 3 succeed, if we were Korea, that would have been enough to pivot us into a developed country. But we are a very big country. This is not going to work. We need 66 more bets to happen. For 6 more bets, we need to place, for 6 bets to succeed, we need to place 14 or 15 more bets. And that would happen in 2025, 26. By then, this template that has now worked for India Stack and now for these 6 being tried out for these 6 in the 7 would get formalized. And we call it the Vishwamitra template. And the goal would then be used to apply to 14 more bets. And if out of that 6, 7 of them succeed, then India's future is going to be like Korea, not like Thailand, like France, not like Spain. And why do I mention this? You know the difference between Korea and Thailand, right? Both had the same per capita income till 74. And then Korea said, what am I doing here? This is not the future that I want. And so they changed course. They focused on products. They're 5.6 times the per capita income of Thailand. G20 is going on. India is the president. I chair the DPI track on T20, which is the inner core of G20, think tank 20. And I can tell you, even I was surprised when I learned that Spain is not a member of G20.
It's not?
Because what do we buy from France? We buy Rafale, we buy Airbus, we buy nuclear plants, we buy
wine.
And yes, we buy wine. But what do we buy from Spain? We buy wine and olive oil. So if you're a seller of wine and olive oil, you're not going to be on the main table, right? True. And so India is today on a path to be a successful Spain, a successful Thailand. People can only probably name a beer brand from Thailand, nothing else. But so if we don't create product brands and product ecosystem in India, we will be like Thailand. We will be, it will not be a bad place to be. It'll be better than where we are, but we will be trapped in the middle income trap. So if you have to break that, that will take 10, 15 years. India stack has taken us 10 years. And so for that, the seeds have to be planted now. So new seeds were planted, 6 saplings are growing. If they do well, then we have to plant 14 more saplings. Then if enough of them do well, then India would reach a future that may be worthwhile as we go forward.
We have 2 minutes
Yes.
left.
Yeah.
So one last question to you. You know, like the horse made, the automobile destroyed the horse, when will digital be destroyed? Sorry.
You know,
Or will it go, I mean, go way of the horse? Or what's the, it's just wild thinking.
look,
I've got you thinking.
No. I'm looking for the simplest way to convey this. See, I think we've had lots of discussion on AI a little while back. You know, there's little or no doubt that AI will lead to job loss in a big way. The last time this scale of job loss happened was in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
And in 1848, Karl Marx published the famous manifesto.
Yeah.
In 1862, Abe Lincoln, you know, famously created the Land Grants Act, which prevented Marxism taking root in the US because it created the university system, and in one generation trained the farmers' children not to be farmers, right? So we will need, we will have an economic impact that is going to be extraordinarily significant. We know there will be a cultural impact, right? We know, you know, when printing press came, you know, in the middle of Germany, towns became Protestants because at that time Catholics were offering indulgences. They said, agar aap rich hain, aapne kuch bhi kiya, aap, you know, give me money and I'll forgive you. And then Bible was published. And these guys, Martin Luther said, where does this say in the Bible that this is even possible? This is not in tune with the Bible's Christianity that you're talking about. And so that is how the Protestant movement came. And that Protestant movement swept the world, and that shapes the America that we see today, right? So the point is, today, after the printing press, today, this is the knowledge representation that has happened. If you and I sit before 2 grandmasters and watch them playing chess every day, no matter how long we watch them, we will not become chess grandmasters, right? But an AI system will become a chess grandmaster. This is a very, very different world that we are living in today. So I think this is not going to be merely digital. And this is going to reshape society in a way that we don't fathom. 500 years of shaping that happened in the past is now going to happen in 50 years. So therefore, not only digital, many other things are going to be swept
I'm going
out
to
of the
end
way.
this on something else, which is the population size. The fact that we have a population which will be young for the next 30 years, I think is a massive opportunity while the world is graying. But I'm not going to get you to debate this, but last thought on that.
Yeah, see, look, AI augments. If I had to go from here to Ghaziabad, and you were allowed to use Google Maps and I was not, and we started from the same place, I bet you'll reach there sooner than I will, right? This is the power of AI augmentation, right? AI is going to augment anything. If you want to be a better chef, you want to be a better teacher, better student, better pilot, anything that you want, better grandmaster, chess player, everything is going to be augmented. But it's also going to augment your games. All the distraction technologies will also be more powerful. So games will be more powerful. Netflix will offer you better options, so binge watching will be more common. Pornography will be better. So therefore, for our population, where a large percentage of our population is young and doesn't have the prefrontal cortex formed, whether they use AI to augment themselves to be the best version of themselves, or they go down this path of distraction, which is what a whole generation has been lost in the US on the back of social media like TikTok. Whether we will end up like the US with a lost generation, or will we end up like China, where they don't allow, the same TikTok is not allowed after 8 p.m. in gaming companies. Tencent can't have after 8 p.m. because they want to limit the distraction that is available to their students. So the question is, will we be like a lost generation like Korea and the US, or will we be a successful generation like China and Japan? This is the choice that we have, and that will tell us what the future is.
Let's end up on that happy note.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. I hope I surprised you with a few questions.
Thank you so much.